Rohit as well. Rohit, Bharadwaj, which are the most popular countries? We have been reading reports that UAE is the most preferred destination for Indian businessmen wanting to migrate abroad. Which would be some of the other top destinations right now, according to you?
Well, in terms of the proximity of the location, and of course, the kind of changes that the government has done in UAE, is definitely has been interest not only for the Indian diaspora but also globally from all parts of the world, including the developed nations. We keep on introducing the recent private wealth migration and the number of the wealth creation which is happening all over the world, specifically from developed nations like US and also from India and China. That has seen an uptake not just in UAE, but also related to a lot of other reasons. A lot of people have understood the concept of having a plan B or a second home, specifically after the lockdown, which we saw roughly 4 years back. So for a wealthy client, who understands the value of diversification in terms of the investments, they also realize that, having a domicile as a diversification strategy as part of the portfolio is something which can be utilized as an insurance policy in the future. So from that aspect, we have seen a certain increase, in the last 3 to 4 years, specifically in the European residents by investment programs or so-called golden visas from a plan B or second home options in Europe as well. But nonetheless, US and the Commonwealth countries, which are English-speaking nations, from a relocation strategy aspect, that still is widely popular in terms of the interest.
Right. And in your book, The Golden Passport, Professor Surak, you look at the kind of people who look to migrate abroad through golden visas. Could you give us a sense of some of the trends that you've seen over the years? One of the things that Howard Lutnick, the US Commerce Secretary, mentioned when Trump was making this announcement was that we want to do away with visa fraud and all the nonsense related to EB-5. But raising the cost, does it help?
Well, in a sense, well, those are two somewhat separate questions. As we heard already, one of the key reasons that have come up in terms of motives for people, especially in a post-COVID world, is a plan B. And there's a lot of reasons around the world: geopolitical instability, the potential of a global pandemic. Just not knowing what's going around the corner means that the plan B mobility possibilities have become one of the dominant motives, in addition to for the golden passports, just simply easier travel and better visa-free access. And if you're talking about citizenship, there's sometimes business benefits that come with that as well as lifestyle benefits too. So those are the four main drivers around the world. And what's been interesting in looking at demand over the past couple of years has been the rise of US citizens looking to these options. So the US is not just trying to attack the wealthiest and the most talented, it's also, to some degree, sending out the wealthiest and most talented who are looking for their own plan Bs because they're not sure what the future is going to bring. So looking at changes in demand, it's been an interesting space to watch geopolitically. But I think in general, a lot of people these days, especially if they have global lives, they're thinking about wanting to keep all those doors open to them.
Right. Let me ask Rohit a question about reducing deficit. The US administration, especially Donald Trump, while making that announcement, saying that we could offer something like 10 million golden visas and reduce the trade deficit that US has. Do golden visas actually help countries in reducing trade deficits?
I mean, historically, what we've seen is that objective of the governments to introduce such concepts under investment migration is the concept of inviting indirect foreign direct investment in the country, whether it's through capital infusion or any other eligibility requirements. So it is, of course, during the last 4 years, specifically after the lockdowns, when world economy was going through a different, kind of paradigm changes, we do have seen that definitely certain countries have benefit from inviting and increasing the outlay through the foreign investors in that country to invest and get those benefits of residency and citizenship. So that is one of the key aspects still where governments. In fact, what I would say that, as you mentioned earlier, in terms of being one of the most expensive, yes, it can be if this is something which comes as an introduction. But the thing is that there are other few countries which have a similar investment program. So
All right, we're losing that connection. But a very quick question to you, Professor Surak. Do you think this is going to lead to a wealth drain also? Of course, there are about 10,000 Indian millionaires who've traveled abroad or migrated abroad in the last 2 years. If this trend continues as it is, does this also lead to a wealth drain?
It's a complicated question, in part because so much of the Indian diaspora is actually creating successful businesses all around the world. So if you take the case of Dubai, it's not necessarily a lot of successful Indian business people taking money out of India, but they're actually building businesses in other parts of the world and sometimes reinvesting in India. So it's a complicated question to answer. In terms of the programs themselves, I don't think at a $5 million price point, the US is going to get anywhere close to the 1 million applicants that Trump has been predicting. If you look at similar golden visa programs, similarly expensive ones like in Australia, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, where they're in the millions in terms of their price points, they usually apply they usually get only a couple hundred applications per year. Certainly not the tens of thousands, certainly not the hundreds of thousands, and definitely not the millions. So if Trump launches this program at 5 million, there'll be some people who look for it. It'll be an easy way, for example, if you want to put your children in US schools and you have that sort of money on hand to do it, 5 million is nothing to you. Might as well spend it. But I don't think it's going to have the actual scale of impact that is being projected at this point in time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Surak, for joining us. And thank you very much to Rohit Bharadwaj as well. We're taking a short break. But coming up on the other side, we bring you a conversation with former US Ambassador to NATO, Ivo Daalder, on the escalating tensions between US and NATO and the outlook on India, China, and the US relationship going ahead. Stay tuned.